Well, here we are. So this is the new Trek Madone SLR 9 AXS 1X road bike, and in this episode I will give you the buyer's guide for this bike, and also I will tell you some likes and dislikes with this mouthful of Trek Madone SLR 9 road bike. So hello friends and welcome to another episode of Cycling Insider. So let's kick off first with the retail price of this bike, which of course is absolutely astonishing, $12,999 hard-earned US dollars. Of course, it's a totally astonishing bike price, and there's not much to say about it. But this is the top of the line Trek Madone road bike. So definitely you are paying the premium for this bike. I will also mention here that this retail price of 13,000 US dollars. It's a recommended retail price, so I wouldn't expect you, if you are really interested in this bike, definitely the local Trek shops should give you some kind of discount, because nobody should be paying this retail price. So also let's first answer the question, who is this bike for? So the Trek Madone SLR 9 has always been an aero road bike, so designed to go as fast as possible in a straight line. So everything is aerodynamically optimized, so frame and the fork, handlebar and the stem, seat post, wheel set, everything designed to go as fast as possible. And there are a lot of bikes on the market now that are definitely designed that way. This is almost, I would call it now, one road bike to rule them all. When you also consider the Trek Madone's kind of secret sauce has always been this ISOFlow design at the back of the bike, this kind of huge hole at the back of the bike where Trek is claiming it's some kind of aerodynamic benefit, better airflow and all these kind of things. But make no mistake, it is also a very unique design with this ISOFlow cutout at the back, and definitely it's a bike that won't be mistaken when you see it, somebody riding this bike outside on the roads. One thing here, when you go to the Trek Madone SLR 9 bikes, is the huge choice of customization options. And Trek is probably targeting people here who are really willing to spend a lot of money to customize the bike. As it is standard, you have 4 paint schemes on offer. The first one is this, what they call deep smoke, totally blacked out. Then you have the little Trek paint scheme from their professional team. You can see this paint scheme, for example, at Tour de France. They are riding it, or Giro d'Italia, Vuelta a España. Then you have this kind of purple phase, very, very interesting paint scheme in my opinion, this purple phase. And probably my favorite one is this Era white paint scheme with kind of a marble look on it. It's a definitely very nice white and gold paint scheme, pretty classy, and I truly like it. Okay, with the price out of the way and kind of the paint schemes out of the way, let's really see kind of what are the secret sauces of this bike and what is this all about at retail price of 13,000 US dollars. So let's kick off with the frame and the fork on this bike. So you see, this is the top of the line carbon fiber 900 series OCLV that Trek calls it, the carbon fiber frame, and you also have their matching carbon fiber fork. Of course, as you can see, everything is internally routed, all the cables, 12mm through axles, both front and the back. And also in this instance, the bottom bracket on the bike is the T47 threaded bottom bracket. As I was mentioning before, a lifetime warranty on the Trek carbon fiber frames, always nice to have. And of course, immediately when you look at this frame, you see what I was talking about. Everything is aerodynamically optimized to go as fast as possible. Also, you have this famous cutout ISOFlow at the back, very nice, design, look. Maybe there is some benefits, I don't know. Trek will say there is, I'm not so sure, but definitely, proper kind of marketing statement that is so unique on the market. Also, with these aerodynamically optimized bikes, you will notice that the head tube is usually deep and narrow, and also the fork legs can be, kind of long and narrow. So all in, very unique carbon fiber frame design, not easily to be mistaken, and on this level of the SLR 9, so 900 series carbon fiber, it is creme de la creme that Trek is doing, so I absolutely have no complaints here. Now let's look at the saddle and the seat post. A very nice touch here. We have an aerodynamically optimized seat post, carbon fiber of course, and the saddle in this instance is the Trek's own Aeolus RSL saddle. Also, when it comes to the customization and the saddle on this bike, I believe you can customize the saddle on this bike. Let me just double check. So that's correct. So when it comes to the saddles, for example, you have few options here in the customization section. Some of them are free of charge, some of them you gotta pay extra. I see here like $74. So definitely you have some freedom here to play with the saddles on this bike. But as I was saying, carbon fiber seat post with the Trek's own saddle, no special complaints here. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. And I'm definitely sure that your local bike shop, if you don't like this saddle, when you are doing the customization, even if you chose wrongly, they will definitely replace it for you, with another saddle. Now let's talk about the handlebar and the stem. So with this aerodynamically optimized bikes, a lot of this reduction in drag that comes from the aerodynamically optimized handlebar and the stem, and in this instance you have a carbon fiber one-piece handlebar and the stem. Here, for example, in the size medium-large, as I can see, the handlebar is 39 centimeters at the top, which is, pretty nice, pretty decent in my opinion. They probably didn't want to go too narrow in this kind of size, medium-large. They could have probably gone even narrower, like 36, but I believe that this 39 is perfectly fine for majority of the riders. Of course, here you have to be careful that since this is a one-piece handlebar and the stem, there is a limited sizing of course, the stem and the handlebar depending on the size of the bike. And as I see in the customization options, you can't specify your preferred, handlebar and the stem length. So this is a bit of a dislike in my opinion here. I believe since we are talking about the full customization on this bike, they should have offered handlebar customization also. So maybe your local Trek shop can do something about it if you are buying this bike. If you come with a specific demand on the handlebar and the stem, maybe they can accommodate. Also, if anything needs servicing here, you will definitely have to go to your local bike shop to do this handlebar and the stem, taking it off, installing any kind of cables that run through it, if there's any cables. There's always going to be, cables for the hydraulic disc brakes, for example, so it might cost you a bit more just for the servicing. All in all, no special complaints from me here, because this is now a must-have, this one-piece carbon fiber handlebar and the stem, because if you want to go as fast as possible, you gotta have this design. You have probably noticed on these Trek's official images that they are including their aerodynamically optimized bottles and cages, but these things are not included in the price of the bike. Of course, my opinion is that they should have been included because you are paying so much money, but I don't believe that they are included in the price of the bike. That's also a nice thing to ask the local Trek shop, can they drop it in, free of charge, because you are spending so much money on this bike. Now let's talk about a little bit of the secret sauce of this bike. And you have probably noticed that this is a, a single chainring bike, so there is no front mech on this bike. So talking about the group set, you are having the top of the line SRAM Red AXS E1 group set. So this is a fully wireless 12-speed group set, so shifters, no front mech. We have the SRAM Red chain rings, and we also have the SRAM Red chain and the cassette and the rear mech. Everything is top of the line SRAM Red group set. I believe if you would buy this group set on the open market, this would probably be somewhere in the region of $2,500–3,000 US, a super expensive group set. But as I was saying, this is the secret sauce of this bike. A single chainring at the front, so no front mech, and this single chainring is the SRAM Red, 48 tooth chainring, including the power meter, so all stuff excellent, including the SRAM Red 12-speed chain, and this cassette at the back is also SRAM Red. It is 1036 cassette. So now, in my opinion, this is excellent. I like, single chainring drivetrains. I've been riding them for years on mountain bikes, and they are perfectly reliable. If you are a bit afraid of dropping the chain, you can always install the chain catcher, but I don't believe there's any problems here. And I also believe that going into the future, more and more of these aero road bikes will be using a single chainring at the front. Look, there are a bit of weight savings in dropping one chainring. Also, there's a bit of maybe aerodynamic advantage because, again, a single chainring, fully closed single chainring. But generally, I think that for majority of the riders on these aero road bikes, you are not climbing some super steep mountains on these bikes, so technically you don't even need a double chainring at the front. And this gear ratio, so you have a 48 tooth chainring at the front, and you have this huge cassette, 1036 cassette. You can definitely attack some steep mountains and you won't have problems with these bikes, but just the ease of maintenance, ease of cleaning this bike and living with this bike, I think a single chainring is almost a no-brainer on bunch of these aero road bikes going into the future. And of course, this SRAM Red fully wireless 12-speed group set is absolutely stunning, creme de la creme of SRAM group sets, so it's definitely going to work perfectly fine. Of course, with these, single chain rings, as I said, if some people are afraid of dropping the chain, you can always put a very simple chain catcher and absolutely have no problems. But you have also probably seen that this year's 2025 Tour de France, Jonas Vingegaard riding a Cervelo bike was also riding a single chainring the whole Tour de France. So, no problems, and you can definitely survive with that. So in my opinion, a very nice addition, something a bit different than the competition, and in my opinion, this SRAM Red single chainring perfectly fine for this aero bike. When it comes to the braking system, we have the SRAM Red hydraulic disc brakes front and the back with 160mm rotors both front and the back, which is absolutely excellent to see. And these are the SRAM Paceline X braking rotors. Very good heat dissipation, very good stopping power, and definitely no cutting corners when it comes to the sizing of these rotors. Now, I forgot to mention when it comes to the customization on this bike, so saddle I already mentioned, you can customize. You can customize the bar tape, nothing special here. And you can also customize the bottom bracket. I forgot to mention the standard bottom bracket, as I said, T47 threaded bottom bracket, but you can also upgrade to have your ceramic speed bottom bracket for an extra $306. Personally, I don't think you should bother with that. The classical threaded bottom brackets are perfectly fine, and you don't have to worry about it. When it comes to group set on the bike, although this bike is standard with SRAM Red AXS 12-speed group set, you can also move to the SRAM Red Explore 1x group set, which will be a new 13-speed group set if you need even more range on the gears of this bike, and it's a no-cost option, so definitely that's very nice. So if you prefer even more gear ratios and the 13 speeds, then you can go with this SRAM Red Explore AXS group set, also 1x group set, including also the power meter. So that's a very nice customization option, and as I was saying, no cost option on this bike. Now let's talk about the wheels and the tires, because here it gets a bit confusing in my opinion. So keep in mind that this is the aero road bike, going as fast as possible in a straight line. So Trek has here used their Bontrager Aeolus RSL 37 wheel set, so carbon fiber wheel set using the DT Swiss 240 hubs DT Swiss spokes, everything fine in that instance. 37, meaning that this is a 37 millimeters rim height, both front and back. And this whole wheel set in total will be something around 1,325 grams. So the confusing part here is that why is it that they are using the 37 millimeters rim height when this is the aero road bike? You want deeper wheels, and Trek is offering you deeper wheels if you want to, replace these wheels on the bike. So for example, when it comes to the wheel set, the standard one, as I said, this Aeolus RSL 37 millimeters, and then you can also move to the Aeolus RSL 51 millimeters, which in my opinion is much more suited for this bike. And the difference in weight will be something like 100 grams between these two wheel sets. So I really don't understand why the bike didn't come immediately with the RSL 51 wheel set, just because it's more aerodynamically optimized than this 37 millimeters wheel set. The only thing that comes to mind is that of course the price point, you'll have to pay extra $500 if you want this 51 millimeters Aeolus RSL wheel set, which will have a total weight of 1,410 grams, for example. And also the total system weight of the bike, as it is now, it is claimed to be 6.4 kilograms in size medium large, which again is absolutely stunning and super light bike, way below the 6.8 kilogram limit that professionals have to satisfy. But also, if you add pedals on this bike, you will be very close to the 6.7, 6.8 kilograms limit. So it's a light bike, but I don't think there's any point of saving 100 grams on a wheel set when you can have a much deeper wheel set and much better aerodynamics. Also, moving on to the tires. So they are using the Pirelli P0 Race RS tire, 28 millimeter tires both front and the back. Okay, perfectly fine with that, no complaints here. Personally, when you destroy these tires, I would run a 30 millimeter tire both front and the back, just because more air volume, much more comfortable ride. But then again, they didn't went with the tubeless setup. This wheel set, by the way, is tubeless ready, but they went with the Pirelli TPU tubes. This is another way to save a bit of weight. I'm probably guessing whatever, they've saved another 50 grams by going with TPU tubes, but I just think again it's totally ridiculous. They should have just stuck with the tubeless tires. And again, if you go to the customization, you can choose the Pirelli P0 Race tubeless tires. You will pay extra $30 for that, but again, I just think that they shouldn't bother with this kind of TPU tubes. I think it's just better to have it tubeless setup out of the box. But okay, with the TPU tubes you save a bit of weight on this whole bike. So as you can see in the summary, it's a bit of a confusing offering from Trek with this Trek Madone SLR 9 AXS 1X bike. And the main likes of these bikes, in my opinion, are the usage of the SRAM Red 1x group set. I personally love it. I think it's perfectly fine. This fully electronic wireless 12-speed group set with the single chain link at the front, including a power meter, excellent stuff. And also I just like the looks of this Trek Madone, the paint schemes. It's a very nicely sorted bike and a very unique bike. When you see it live, you definitely can't mistake it for anything else. But the totally confusing part for me are these wheels on the bike. Why 37 millimeters when this is a heavily aerodynamically optimized bike? Just go deeper, because people want to go as fast as possible. You should give them, deeper wheels as a no-cost option. And also, personally, I wouldn't be setting up a bike with TPU tubes immediately. I would set it up tubeless, just because I think that's the much better option. So a bit kind of confusing bike, really not sure what was the target with this bike. Maybe it was the low weight, because they are claiming 6.4 kilograms in size medium large. But then again, in my opinion, for the aero road bikes, even if they are in this instance 200-300 grams heavier with a better, deeper wheel set and tubeless tires, I just wouldn't mind. It would still be excellent bike for the asking price. It's, you know, top of the line that Trek is doing. So yeah, a few little niggles here and there that they could have sorted better. Just for a comparison, soon I will be making some videos about the new Cervelo S5, and Cervelo is also offering their S5 in the single chainring option, but funnily enough, Cervelo is using the SRAM Red Explorer group set, so this is the one with the 13 speed and also that allows them to use a much greater gear ratio. So for example, they are running a 50 tooth chainring at the front, but at the back they are running a 1046 cassette, 13 speed, which is just astonishing. I mean, this 1046 cassette is the cassette from the mountain bike world. So Cervelo has went totally another way by using the single chainring at the front and the huge, I would call it a mountain bike cassette at the back. So with this Cervelo S5, you kind of have it both. You can go super fast in the straight line, and you can even attack some super steep mountains with the Cervelo. I will be making this video soon, but just to mention that Cervelo is asking, you know, $14,250 for this bike. So all in all, kind of an interesting offering from Trek with this SLR9 AXS1 bike, but still I believe it's kind of a confusing personality of this bike, and it's almost like there were two groups at Trek. One of them wanted to make it as light as possible, and then the other group wanted to still keep the aerodynamic performance of this bike. I believe that with few small tweaks with your local Trek bike shop, you can make it much better than it is now out of the box. So I think this is gonna be it for today. I hope you like what I'm doing. If you do, keep on watching, keep on liking, and as always, I will see you soon in the next episode. Cheers!